And I wonder how many of us also play this same game when it comes to discipleship. When do we actually become a disciple? At what age do you become an adult? Is it when you pay your first bill? Is it when you move out of the house? Is it this like constant game that you play that you're still guessing at? Like, do you have more gray hairs on your head than not, and you're still asking yourself this question if you're an adult yet or not? I think some of us get to play that game on and on. I think others of us have this like pivotal moment where we go, no, 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 no. That is when I became an adult. And I wonder how many of us also play this same game when it comes to discipleship. When do we actually become a disciple? And so I want to take us to Peter's pivotal moment when I think he can point to and say, well, I didn't really have an option anymore. I was a disciple. And it comes to us from Matthew's gospel this morning, chapter 16, and we begin in verse 13. It goes like this. Now, when Jesus came to the area of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the human one is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. He said, and what about you? Who do you say that I am? Simon Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Then Jesus replied, happy are you, Simon, son of Jonah, because no human has shown this to you. Rather, my Father who is in heaven has shown you. I tell you that you are Peter, and I'll build my church on this rock. The gates of the underworld won't be able to stand against it. I'll give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Anything you fasten on earth will be fastened in heaven. Anything you loosen on earth will be loosened in heaven. This is good news for all people. You are the rock on which my church will be built. This is one of the greatest affirmations of the faith that we have in the entirety of the Gospels, let alone the entirety of our scriptures. And in it, I think we need to make this clear distinction in it that I think we get a little bit mixed up. It is not upon Peter that Christ builds the church. It is upon the declaration of Peter's words that Christ builds the church. It is upon the declaration that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. That is what the church is built upon. And Peter is the one who is willing to voice it because he understands it. And here's what is so powerful about this. It has nothing to do with Peter's actions. We're going to get to his actions in a couple of weeks. But his purpose in this moment is simply his words and his affirmation of who Jesus is. It's his testimony. Peter is still messed up time and time again in the Gospels. Go read the text if you don't believe me, but I think you know. And Peter is going to mess up time and time again. But none of that matters. Peter still feels like he's playing at being a disciple. But in this moment, he gets it. And in this moment, Jesus thrusts the kingdom keys into Peter's hands and says, hey, buddy, you have no more choice but to be about my kingdom. Unleash the kingdom of heaven on earth. Be about my work. And that's the beauty of exactly who we're called to be. That is our purpose. That is the line and legacy of Peter right there. We stand in the line and legacy, generation to generation, from Peter to us, when we make the same declaration, when we say the same thing, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. We are adding to the bedrock of the church. And Jesus thrusts the keys of the kingdom into our hands. There's no question of, are we playing at being a disciple? Jesus says, here are the keys to the kingdom of heaven. They are in your hands. Go and be my disciple. And so we get to do that work. And here's the beautiful thing when we do that. We get thrust into the work of intergenerational ministry. I can remember the first time that I felt that in my own life, and it was based around this thing called the Purple Leopard Lounge. It was this thing that we did in youth group when I was a kid, and I think it was really probably the greatest gift that our youth directors gave to our parents, because it was a New Year's Eve talent show that we did. And so all of the youth group kids got dropped off on New Year's Eve, and the parents could go do whatever they wanted to, and we got picked up at 12:30. And so we happened to know that our head youth director, this was going to be his last event with us before he moved to take a new youth director position at a different church. And so me and another friend had found a stocking that was purple with leopard print at the top of it. And because we had found that, we purchased it and we filled it with his favorite things. And then on behalf of the youth group, we gifted it to him at the talent show, the Purple Leopard Lounge. And I remember that at some point in that evening, he pulled me and this friend aside and he looked at us and he said, you both are called to ministry, and God is going to do incredible things through you. And that simple thing stuck with me long before I ever knew I was called to like ordained ministry or like paid ministry. Those words rang out in me because an adult took the time to say God was going to use me. God had a purpose for me. And I know from talking to y'all that you have the same stories. Let me tell you the template of how they often go and fill in the blanks as I go. Oftentimes it begins like this. A person older than you, more times than not related to you, somehow takes you under their wing. They pour into you. They invest some amount of time into you. And over the course of that time they spend with you, there comes a moment where they look at you and they tell you that God is working through you. And oftentimes they then will thrust the kingdom keys into you and push you into some kind of experience and say, go and do this experience. And oftentimes you feel ill-equipped, and perhaps it goes off without a hitch, and perhaps it is a hot, chaotic mess. But regardless of how it goes, you know you are a better disciple for going through the experience. That is the beauty of intergenerational ministry. And it is the exact template that we see Jesus gift to the disciples over and over again. And sometimes it goes off without a hitch, and sometimes it is the hottest, most chaotic mess. The gift we can give each other is to thrust the kingdom keys into one another's hands over and over again and say, go and unleash heaven upon this earth. Our purpose is to continue to state Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And every time we do, we stand in the legacy of Peter, continuing the tradition of the church and the purpose of the church. And every time we do that, Jesus puts a new set of the keys of the kingdom of heaven in our hands. And the next thing we should do with those is go find someone else's hands to say, go unleash the kingdom of heaven upon this world. So will you join me in causing some holy chaos by unleashing heaven over and over again, by continuing the legacy of the church, by declaring Jesus is Lord, and by living out your purpose, by thrusting the keys of the kingdom of heaven into people's hands over and over again.